some of the dioxin results have come in.
Okay. What's the standard that you're using for the parts per million? Is it going to the current one, or what they originally wanted to change it to in 2010? Or are you using, like, California and Michigan have lower standards? Are you doing the 700 parts per million, which is extremely high? Or are you using what was suggested back in 2010 for the 72 point parts per million? Where are they at?
So that's an excellent question, and I'll explain it in a minute. I just want to make sure that the other question was fully answered. And I know I still have to answer yours, so I haven't forgotten. So with the dioxins, we have set the criteria in the plan, and it's actually not parts per million, it's parts per trillion, so it's several magnitudes of order below that. So there's parts per million, parts per billion, parts per trillion. So the dioxins, because of their risks, have a very low risk-based threshold. And we made sure that we could detect it down to what we call the residential screening level, which is really low. So you see the number is 4.8 trillion, so much below the 7. Okay, so we'll be able to see it 4.8, down to at least 4.8. That's the residential level. With the laboratory method, we can see it a little bit lower, but we had to see at least that low. Not all the samples we're collecting are on residential properties. Some are commercial, some are recreational, some are agricultural. So if we see a hit, get a detection, say on a commercial property that's higher, let's say it's 100, right? That's not necessarily a concern because that's not where somebody lives, right? But if it's on your property, we're interested in seeing it down around that residential screening level, not up around that action level that you were describing. So we're not looking at it in terms of what's our threshold for action. We're looking at it as what's the minimum risk level. That's what we're determining analytical. Okay. I can't tell you at this point where we would take action if we do find elevated levels. Normal background for urban and rural environments is somewhere in that 1 to 11 parts per trillion range. Okay. So if we see it significantly above that, that might motivate us to do more assessment. We'll have to see. Again, we just want to make sure we can see the lowest level possible.
That air monitor that's hanging up with the bag covering it below the tube, how accurate is that thing?
So it depends on which one it is. Is it the bigger one, the big yellow box with the bag on?
Yeah, it's like a little one with the bag hanging over it.
Yeah, so that's a multi-gas. It's called an area array. It's a multi-gas monitor, and it's accurate. This gets to your question. It's accurate down to 0.1 parts per million for volatile organics. All right, so the vinyl chloride is a volatile organic. The butyl acrylate is a volatile organic.
So that machine goes lower than the ones you're checking the house.
So yeah, so that one doesn't go lower. That one and the ones we're checking the house go down to 0.1 parts per million. Okay, and this gets to his question, so I'll answer them both at the same time. All right. And then I got another answer for you on water sample down your way. So all right. The machines, both the machines that were used in the homes and the machines that are hanging on the telephone poles, some of those are multi-gas meters where we can see hydrogen chloride, carbon monoxide, a bunch of other gas sensors. But they also have that photoionization detector, which is that volatile organic meter. It goes down to 0.1 parts per million. Now, the problem with that is our vinyl chloride action level is the long term was 500 parts per billion, which is 0.5 parts per billion. So just above that level of detection, right? The butyl acrylate is after the emergency phase, we drop that down to 20 parts per billion. So we can't see that lowest level of that machine. All right, and that's important. But you can smell butyl acrylate at much lower levels. So yes, there is a chance that chemical could be present and we don't see it with that machine. I mean, you need to understand that, right? Butyl acrylate, butyl acrylate's an irritant, right? And it can cause some of the symptoms that people have presented. If that is what's causing it, I don't know. But again, we can see to a certain threshold with those machines.
But every time we go, they say something about it. They quote your house tested with this little machine, and it's like, and I know, doing my research, that machine doesn't mean anything to them. It really doesn't, because if they go below that .1 level, your flooring, your walls, your paint, your plastic, everything throws off DOC.
That's right. That's right. So it only tells you if you have a serious problem, right? So what I would be concerned about
Death,
in the homes.
that would always be death at .1.
What I'd be concerned about with the volatile organic monitor is the vinyl chloride, because vinyl chloride is a cancer-causing agent. You don't want that. You don't want the exposure to vinyl chloride, right? If you have a low-level butyrate
We
exposure,
end up winning.
We did, we got exposed.
We did. Everybody come to my funeral in 5 years, thank you.
if you have a low-level butyrate exposure, it's an irritant, right? It's not going to cause any long.
Is it the
Is that
only
why
thing that you're
they're
finding in the creek? Is it butyracro only? Because now, I went down myself to the creek, I fished that creek my whole life. There's spots where that stuff's 18 inches down in the creek.
I know, that's.
And they're aerating it, are they trying to solve the problem by dilution, or are they trying to solve the problem, I don't know how, to me, it's going airborne.
So it depends on what part of the creek we're in. Up in Sulphur Run, they want to remove it, just dig it out, right? Because that's the ecology up in Sulphur Run isn't very good, because it's an urban area, right? But when you get down to Leslie Run, that's a sensitive area, right? And I'm just telling you what the Ohio EPA guys, because they're the experts on the surface water, right? There's salamander down there, there's
But
hellbender.
that was in the North Florida, that's all the way up for Beaver Creek.
Those are actually still dormant right now.
And-
So I'm really surprised they found a health here while it being dormant.
But it was in the North Florida.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is, they don't want to go in and just dig that out, because it is a sensitive ecosystem, right? So they're trying to speed up the natural biological process by stirring up the sediments, getting it up, and when it comes to the surface, they're collecting it with sorbent.
But if they're spraying, this is just one more question, if they're spraying it, it's not going deep enough to irritate the aggregate down there to get it, to even come close to getting it out.
So I've heard that concern expressed a number of times in previous meetings like this, and this gets to your other question. So you guys are kind of insane.
Team it up.
So, your other question was, what about Negley, and what about the river down that way? And
Yeah, because we're all exposed already. I got paperwork from the hospital. I got acute bronchitis due to chemical fumes. When I was out of taking day out of this, I'm in the women's hospital radius. I went to Negley when we got relocated, which wasn't the brightest idea because they got it too.
So they're down in the valley.
But it took a month of us complaining to everyone why it is sitting there going through these waters, why it's going through this air, why it's digging deeper into our soils, a month. And it's going to be a lot more for it to get cleaned up. And it's like, is our town ever going to be safe? Are we going to let our kids go out there and play? But it's always going to be in the back of our minds now.
so and because of the issues that you raised about the surface water, the surface water cleanup is going to take longer than the major cleanup that's happening around the railroad
Is
tracks.
there an estimated time?
So that one's hard. I can't give you a number on. I can give you a number on the railroad tracks and the heavy contamination there. That's going to be at least 3 months, right?
What about the properties though?
But hold that thought. Still over here. But we ordered the railroad to give us a series of plans. One of them is a potable drinking water plan, which will address drinking water wells, which will also address the municipal system. We also asked for a surface water plan. We've seen the potable plan. It's highly inadequate, so we've got comments back, and we're waiting for the revised the potable water plan. We want to make sure all the chemicals of concern are listed in that plan. On the surface water plan, that's one of the things we'll be looking at. How far down are they going to be addressing contamination, right? And that's where.
Yeah, because they got the soot too from that controlled burn. All that smoke and that soot went to Negley too. So it's sitting out there, and went through their wells, and went through their soil and their ground.
They got pounded. They really did.
They did.
Do you know how much butyrate was actually in the creek?
It had to be an enormous amount.
How about the oil?
I know that when I came through Negley, like the day after, as soon as you come around the corner by Road, it smelled worse than it did anywhere in Palestine.
All
So,
that dead fish.
give me, that creek has to be so contaminated.
Wild game.
They changed the color.
Well, it had to be. given the fish kill, given what we know about the derailment itself, it had to be an enormous amount.
Where did the oil go that was on the train? I mean,
So-
nobody's mentioning that.
60,000 gallons of non-haz
What's
lube.
interesting about the oil, you gotta remember, there's a fire going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what sustained the fire, as long as it did. You guys, again, I didn't, I
A
was.
million gallon, I mean.
I wasn't there
Can you
during,
guys,
I
we
I
need
was-
to keep this.
I wasn't there during the emergency conditions, so, did you see oil floating down the creek? I don't know. I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
we're taking everything, you can see it.
Yeah.
There's definitely, I live, right off the Sulphur Run in town. I'm actually about 1.1 miles out. You know, half of my, other side of my street was evacuated, not my side. But even, I'm about, I don't know, 50 yards downstream from where they had two aerators. And you could still see bubbles of oil floating on top of the water. So there was
So
some
some
type
of it
of
got
oil. And also, you know, when people were throwing the rocks in, and all that colorful stuff is coming up from the sediment, I was told that that was some type of petroleum.
So
that was
that's
on
not
the
the
train.
butyl right?
Correct.
It creates that sheet, and that is not the butyl.
So the butyl acrylate should look like, it should have like a kind of milky film to it.
Yep,
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
But the rainbow is actually the oil that's coming out
It
of the
could be,
sediment?
it could be. I mean, that's a typical indicator of petroleum. So.
The best way to describe it, whenever I saw it, kind of looks like fish sperm. Whenever the
Oh,
water goes,
right.
it literally looks like that during.
So do we have
Yeah.
any idea of what's causing
Yeah,
some
probably.
of, like,
That's all.
I'm not here all the time. Every time I come here, I'm very sensitive. I get extreme headaches. Very extreme. I've had one all day, still have one. I'm on prescriptions. My eyes are, I'm legally blind, but my little string behind my eyes is actually swollen, so I have on prescriptions for that. And when I leave here, I'm perfectly fine. I've taken 4 different medications today, and I still have a headache, only when I'm in town. If I sit on my couch, I smell something, it gets worse. I literally have to go outside a lot. What is that? I had my air test done again today. Of course, it came out, everything, you know, perfectly fine. I'm still getting sick every time I come to town. Why?
I wish I had that answer.
Do you know what this, like, what's causing it? Any of the chemicals that could be causing it? And it's trapped in these old houses that breathed this in for days before the explosion.
Is there somebody that you can direct us to?
It's the
Because I realize, you know, it's kind of a medical thing, but I think, again, that's kind of the elephant in the room that everybody needs addressed is why are we getting sick? Why are our children getting sick? And at least from what I've been seeing, and I have a lot of people reach out to me, you know, because I am an organizer, kids that weren't sick before are now getting sick since they're carrying up these tracks. I guess my personal question is, who made the decision that it was okay to tear up one side of the tracks at a time? Again, I'm not a scientist, but it seems like that's exposing us even longer.
Yeah.
And the EPA said that gases would come out of that. So if you have a train flying by on the other track, again, I'm not a scientist, but it's kind of like blowing it with a fan.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, that's my question is, who made that decision, if you know,
Well, we
and
did
why?
approve that plan, so, you know, that's on us. We did approve that plan. And the idea was, it's twofold, right? Keep the tracks moving, of course, that's the railroad's
More.
But on the excavation side, I wouldn't want to have that entire area opened up at the same time. And that's just larger surface area for gases to come to the surface and flow down there. You know, to me, you know, honestly, just thinking back on this, I would like to see it happen in smaller sections. You know, we have a half-mile trench open right now, right? Now, we're monitoring, you know, everything's pretty much cleaned up. On the east end, we're still seeing contamination coming from the sidewalls. So we know that eventually we're gonna have to dig, they're gonna have to dig more to the south to chase the waste. And underneath where those waste piles are staged right now, we know there's contamination there. But, you know, that's a large trench that's open and exposed right now. You know, on the north side, you know, we may make the recommendation to do it a piece at a time. Dig some, verify it clean, then backfill, so it's not so there's not that much exposure, so less vapor gets in the air.
What is the difference of doing both tracks at the same time and exposing it than you tearing up one side and you still have the contaminated soil sitting there? That's exposing us to anyway. So what's the difference of doing it all? I have, like I said, I absolutely do live there. My home is 900 feet from the burn site. So before they even started tearing up the side tracks, I've had a mound of contaminated soil and water tanks sitting right in my property line. I've had tankers sitting on their side at my property line. My question is even though you guys are taking care of the tracks, what about our homes? There's 6 homes on the one side that you've already tore up. Where is that contamination going? It's going into our yard. It's going into our home. And I know that it's in my yard because all of this that they're talking about seeing in the creek, they flooded my backyard because some moron that is working with these people, you have multiple companies down there working. I honestly, truly believe that nobody is really ahead of that and in charge, because who in their right mind would release clean water out of tanks that they're using for rinsing, drinking, whatever they're using it for? They released that. All of that ran right through my backyard, and I seen the foam, I seen my yard bubbling, I have a video of it. Called the train company, they come out, and his response to his coworker was, have you ever seen anything like that before? But it's okay for me and my family still to be there, but let me relocate you. Now they're coming to me, let me relocate you for 6 months. I can't keep moving my family. We have a very large family. My home's never going to be safe. I know that. I know it'll never be safe, because how are you going to continue to tear that soil up, tear up my yard, keep coming, because as much rain, we're headed into spring. We don't get spring here in East Palestine. We get rain, snow, sun, and that's it.
But in your insulation, in your floorboards, in your wall cabinets,
Absolutely.
in your eaves,
It's in there.
you got good insurance?
No,
Yeah. So
No.
burn that stuff.
you're right. I'm pretty much stuck there.
More fire.
But my thing is, like, all of that is coming our way. All of that contamination is already there. So not just me and my family and our homes right there exposed, that's continuing. And all of the stuff that they're bringing from back there, all these trucks that are running through, I watch every day. I've seen a rainbow coming up the side of my street, right by my driveway. Now they have a water tank that's coming up there, driving down one side, literally shooting water out the side of this tank to clear these roads. That's going to my front yard now. So now we are surrounded there. We don't have sidewalks out there. There's no way to block that. My biggest question is, who is in charge? Who's saying, okay, this is okay? You know, like, it's okay to do that. It's okay to squirt this contaminated road because our trucks are running out. It's okay to squirt all of that water over onto these properties or to the car washes properties and things like that. Who's actually in charge that is controlling all of these EnviroServe, Pepco, all these other companies that's working out there? Who's saying that this is okay?
Well, I can only answer part of that question.
Okay.
Obviously, it's the railroad's responsibility to manage something, right? But your question really boils down to who's overseeing the primary company. And we and the other responsible agencies are supposed to be doing that. So that's a very specific concern for a very specific area that we'll look at.
Who tests, like, is the
then-
EPA doing the testing
So
for
then
the
there's
railroad?
a sampling piece of it. So there were several questions in your discussion, right?
Yes.
And one of them, where is the contamination going underground? Where is it going over underground? Is what's happening, in your front yard affecting your soil, right? I would argue, without actually having been there and seen your yard and seen your situation, that there needs to be more before everything's done on the south side. There needs to be more sampling and analysis on the surface soils in those areas than just the semi-volatile organics, right, and the dioxins. There's more going on there, because you're right there. I hate to use this word, but ground zero,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I do think, just to speak a little bit to Shelby's situation and the situation of those houses that are right there, that somebody should individually visit their houses from the EPA.
Yeah, and just to let you people know from Negley, you're not the only one getting ignored, because until my big mouth started going, nobody showed up at my house. Nobody. They didn't even put a flyer on my door. So don't.
I do have to ask, and this isn't confrontational. Like 3 or 4 weeks ago, did they offer to move you?
No. Nobody has offered to move me at all. Swear on my kids' life, nobody. The only thing, they're relocating. That's it.
That's what I mean,
Oh,
relocating.
they're relocating.
Was it like 3 or 4 weeks somebody tried?
No.
Okay, thank you.
When they have asked, like, for me to relocate, is the same time that they evacuated the whole 1 mile. Is the only time we got evacuated. And then when they came to me right before they started tearing up the tracks, then it was relocating. It's the same time that they did everybody else.
Yeah, okay.
Offering. Nobody came out to our places to my knowledge. Now, I'm the only one that owns in that, like, the 6 houses in the front. I don't know about the 6 houses in the back, but I am the only homeowner right there. Everybody else is renters. So a lot of them have relocated and moved. I don't have that option.
Shelby, how I got the house was, I explained to them that my mother could not stay in a hotel room.
Yeah.
I had to contact the railroad for that.
Yeah, and
But
I have,
I
and now
was-
they are wanting to
Yeah.
relocate me for 6 months. But 6 months.
Well, your name was just brought up a long time ago, and we were like, go,
Yeah,
and they,
no, they
Well,
have.
just for the sake of
You do have to
we'll
fight.
move to the middle table.
Yep.
And I hope that, the EPA, will do some more of these smaller sessions. I feel like people are getting a lot of answers from the transparency, and being able to discuss individual situations. It's hard to do when we have the town hall, because we have such a limited amount of time. So I'm hoping that this is something we can continue to do, to answer questions. So I'd like to move to the middle section. If you have a question.
So, 3 of them, I'll give you my
Sorry,
card.
go ahead.
I'll give you my card, well, I'll give you my
We
number.
can do it afterwards,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we can definitely.
Now, with that said, this is a question too, that I, before we move on. So with her situation, I've seen her video, and it was a while ago, and it was a part. And now I'm hearing a lot of the same things, and people do not want to live in their homes, even with the relocation. Is there a show of hands of anyone that would like to say if they do want to go back to their home, if we're just released back? So a lot of people don't feel comfortable even, if we would have another round of air tests or cleaning. I feel like I wouldn't be comfortable even with my son. And from what I saw with her video, that she should.
That flood was almost all the way up to my back door. I know it's very close, and probably by this time in my home, because that flood that came through and that bubble leak was halfway through my yard.
And again, that's, that should, and anyways, your question, your point. I know that, well, we are in discussions right now with the company about another run, home cleaning, but a run home cleaning is a little more involved. Because from what I understand from having discussions with many of you, that the first one was pretty weak.
They were deodorizing, is what they told me, that they were basically Febrezing our houses.
Yeah, I went into one home where, they said they cleaned it, they cleaned it, all the walls and floors, and the surfaces were cleaned, and I guess those comments.
They stuck a defogger, like you do for, like cockroaches in your home, sprayed it, and they didn't even wipe off the counters or nothing afterwards. They said, it'd go away.
Yeah, so.
They didn't even
Well,
show
it got
me my house.
it wasn't reported abuse.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, so if that happens, if that does happen again, it'll be, if there's another cleaning program on the table, it'll be overseen, it'll be done.
So now after that, we still don't feel comfortable, is there something that can be done?
So,
Because we don't hear about it.
and the question you heard, the other question that's about here, air sampling, and we are looking at some sort of neighborhood-based air sampling program, but we're, we know what the chemicals of concern are, right? And we're monitoring for those around the work sites. And we're not seeing, other than the butyl acrylate, we're not really seeing anything at levels that would be of concern in the neighborhood. But then we're hearing your stories. And we know that there's got to be
How
something
is
else
there
here.
no other cleaning process in way right now? How?
I don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
How is there no other cleaning being done? You guys had a sanitary.
Oh, you mean in the indoor?
Yeah.
Indoor, yeah, we're trying to work that out. I mean, that's.
How is that already?
I know.
He's back in contact with me and I never heard a word.
They realized their inadequacies, there was a lot of complaints, I feel a lot of complaints through my office too. And then we saw the security camera footage of the one guy's cleaning, and it was a joke.
I work with a guy that knows the guy that owns a company of sandbags.
Yeah.
He said he told him openly, he had no idea how to do this stuff. He is not built for doing the cleaning what he needs to do.
I'm hoping it's real soon. That's the best I can give you right now. So next time we talk, if it still hasn't happened, there's something wrong.
Your question, your arm's been up.
I have 4, but they're short. So the independent tester that you guys are consulting with, have you gotten any results back from them yet? Like, have they read it out?
Me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
The city.
We have not, they're just going over the data.
Okay.
We're gonna go over all that data. If the data doesn't make sense, then we are going to test. If our contractor doesn't feel that they were getting the right data, or it wasn't how they would have done it, then they're gonna go through and they're gonna retest. We have not done any private testing yet, because the problem is, if we do private testing, then we're liable for the fix, is what we were told, and that's not how we're doing it. So we're gonna go over their data. If their data's okay, then if we don't
So
like
you
that.
haven't gone over it with them yet?
No,
Okay.
we're still collecting everything, and then they'll go over.
Will you release that to the public then?
Absolutely.
And then,
Every test we've had so far, everything's released on the EPA site. That's where all this, that is coming from, that and the contractors, and any independent that wants to share their data with us. Because there is some questions of, all right, Texas Tech and somebody did a test.
Purdue.
What were they going off of? Were they going off the same thing as the EPA, or was it more stringent? And, okay, well, maybe it wasn't more stringent, it was, because you can take data and you can make it look however you want to make it look.
exactly.
So,
That's,
we want true answers.
I suggested this before, but probably you, because your department is giant. Can we get a side-by-side comparison of every single testing company, whether it was Texas or Purdue or whatever, and just lay them all out side by side?
That's what our contractor's gonna do.
Yeah, and
They're gonna say, here's EPA, here's this one, here's this one, here's this one, and they're not, I don't wanna say, they're gonna put it in layman's terms, I don't wanna say dumb it down, but I'm saying personally for me, dumb it down, because I'm not a chemist, so.
Do we have any more questions?
I have two. Oh, sorry, go ahead, sorry. So if EPA tomorrow said tear up both sets of tracks, you guys have the power to tell them, like, nope, tear them both up now?
We have the ability to order them to do that, yes. If we order them to tear up both sets of tracks at the same time, I'm sure we get sued.
They actually did it the smart way, this is my personal opinion. One at a time, because if they would have done both, it would turn into a lawsuit, and for 6 months to a year, we would have just been sitting in limbo, because it would have been going back and forth. They have as many attorneys as we do people working in the village, so.
Well, you already have a lawsuit, EPA does have a lawsuit.
We issued, the administrative order is a legal document, yes.
So it's legality over lie.
Yeah.
And we'll,
Now, it's not a lawsuit per se, but we also have already levied our first, basically fine, based on.
3 times 3 times
Do you-
what it's supposed to be.
That one will come later if they don't comply with the order. This one was about the